Hello everyone and welcome to part 9 of our Devlog series and the most important part right to the beginning. So our game won't be called Auto Conquest anymore. Instead we will refer to it as Kingsblood. So why did we change the name? I mean, I actually liked Auto Conquest, was kind of proud about the name, think it sounded kind of cool, but it was a reference to the combat system. So we base our combat system on auto chess, and a lot of people don't actually know auto chess, and to be honest, combat system is not the most important part about our game. I guess the most important part is our story and our RPG elements, and the core of our story is about the royals and the heritage and their blood and the abilities which are basically connected to this royal heritage. So that's why we call our game now Kingsblood. And aside from making sense in terms of story, I think it sounds really cool. So now Kingsblood is the game we're talking about actually. I want to jump right into the action and show you what changed within the last week, and it is once again so much. So I think everyone on our team is really motivated and pushing really hard. I think we've all tasted not King's Blood, but blood, and we really want to push this and become this game not necessarily a success, but we actually want to finish it and not just put something out, but put something cool out. So let's start maybe with some minor things. So you see we added some art. So this is a heraldic banner, a cool artist painted for us, and we want to have these for every faction. So this is actually the banner for the faction, the principality, which is closest to the crown, who traditionally is the protector of the country. But like I said, it is a little bit misplaced right here because this is actually an elfin city. I just want to show you, but we will have these heraldic banners for all of our factions. Now, one cool thing I just want to show you, because it adds a little bit of atmosphere, is that we can drink in the tavern. You might remember that when we drink we will get a new rumor, right? And maybe you see it in the background, the lighting changes, the light, because it gets darker. We had a little bit of a design problem because when you drink in a tavern, you get new rumors, and the rumors can give you quests or you can get mercenaries. So if you have 20 cities and you can drink 3 times per city, you could drink 60 times a day. That would be kind of stupid. So we solved it that we basically put a clock on this drinking event and it gets darker. And of course now you can drink 3 times a day, no matter in which city you are, and it will get darker. And aside from that game design aspect, it also kind of looks cool, I think. Now you see the map lights up a little bit, and yeah. And in terms of these atmospheric effects, we want to add a lot more, that the map gets a bit more alive. For instance, we want to add weather effects, so they will come in another devlog, so I shouldn't talk too much about them. So I think these are just some minute things. The core mechanics which changed are once again in terms of the questing system and of the combat system. So these are our 2 big blocks which we want to tackle and really want to polish until they are finished. And let me go to the town hall now. Last time we could only trigger the quests from here. Now we can trigger them from here. Ignore the UI, it will get more beautiful. And now you can see we can actually start the quest Wolf's Blood. Okay, this now already works kinda how we want it to work in terms of game flow. So for me at least, it feels really close to the real deal already. And you know this image if you watched the last couple of developer vlogs. Once again, it changed not only a little bit, but actually significantly, because we were talking about a motivation system in theory, but now this motivation system works. So you know these different colors, they indicate the motivation, and we just had static values, but now they are not static, they are actually calculated. So for the quest Wolf's Blood, we can now put traits on a quest. I think for this quest we said the quest is outside, you will get great treasures, And I think if you participate in this quest, you have to do cruel things, right? But now you can also put traits on your characters, and they will have those traits forever. So for instance, Rayu is greedy, okay? And we've just learned that at the quest Wolf's Blood, there will be cool treasures. So let's see how Rayu reacts on this. So Rayo is super motivated to go on this quest because he's always on the lookout for valuables, and valuables will be at Wolf's Blood, so he will be motivated. What actually happens when he's motivated? Now that's something we haven't modeled yet, but we want to give slight buffs, right? So for instance, his focus bar, you will learn later on what the focus bar is. His focus bar will fill faster. On the contrary, if you're yellow, nothing will happen. So you will be neutral. For instance, Rastuval does not have any traits which are affected or which play a factor in terms of this specific quest. But if you're red, like for instance Rilka, so she's strongly repulsed by cruel acts, and you have to kill wolves, so you have to be a cruel person, an unhonorable person. So she will suffer severe malice. So the idea behind this honor system, this motivation system, is that you of course can still bring her with you, because maybe you say, hey, I already have an archer. I'm not even sure if we have 2 archers. All right. Do we have 2 archers? Ah, yeah. Here you see now we have a second archer. Maybe you want to keep the archer synergy, and you say, okay, I bring Rilka because I need her synergy, but then in combat herself, aside from her synergy, she will be pretty useless. We thought that people with a low motivation, they will attack slower, they will be a bit more lazy, so their attack speed should go by probably 30 or 50%. And their focus bar, which is also very important, will fill slower. Okay, but now let's form a cool group. Yeah, who do we take with us? Maybe let's take Torben. Okay, and now we will go into combat, and there also a lot of stuff changed. And I have to say, the combat system currently is not perfectly tuned, so the combat is very fast. So I will talk a lot before the combat starts. So I try to gain some time here, right? But you see the characters now, they look a bit closer to how they are actually supposed to look. For instance, Alra, you can see here Rilka with her cape, and I think this is Bjork, pretty much our mountain giant. No, he's not a mountain giant, but he's supposed to be a muscly guy, right? And here in the combat system, a lot of stuff changed. Maybe you remember the last time I told you that if you have uneven ground, now here we have pretty flat ground, but if there were some hills, these characters would not sink into the hills, but instead they would stand on top of them, because this is fixed right now. Andy programmed this, so I hope I am not saying something wrong, but actually I think we are sending a raycast down to the ground, and it pretty much measures the Y coordinate, and so if the ground is elevated, also the character will get elevated. So this is fixed, and you also see like the position screen. I think because development rushes so fast, I'm not sure if we had it in the last video, but I think not. So this also looks much better, the placement. So I think they were completely filled with color, and now only the outlines are filled with color for these placement indicators. Okay, and probably one of the biggest changes, for you it might not be much, but for us we had to design a whole architecture around it, is that now we can actually face real enemies. Before we just mirrored and duplicated the group, and we always made it your group fights basically itself. But now we can define enemies in a JSON file. We stick these enemies to the quest, so they are part of the quest. And in this case, we have 3 wolves. Okay, to be honest, they look like skeletons, but they are actually wolves in our code at least. And yeah, so now we can actually design very cool fights. And about the scene, we can also we had some problems with placing the group in the scene. Now we can define where exactly do they stand, how will the camera position, really cool stuff. So now I think we can create cool combat scenes. Please ignore the bad graphics of this wall. This wall actually is important for the story, but does not look too good yet, so we will probably exchange it. So now, before I start the combat, because like I said, the combat will fly through very fast, so I just want to tell you some more stuff. So now you see we have a second bar here, and this is the focus bar. This is actually very similar to auto chess. Now, if you attack or if you get attacked, this focus will rise, and if your focus bar is full, the character will trigger a special attack. So, for instance, Torben, you see they don't have weapons right now, but he will get an axe. So he will, for instance, do a roundhouse attack. Or if you are a paladin, you will do a shield, and everyone who stands behind you will get shielded. Rilka, she will get a bow, she will jump in the air and, for instance, shoot 3 arrows. So even though our story is very realistic, in the combats we want to go all out. So we want to make the combat system a particle spectacle, basically. Or at least that's how I imagine it. Maybe it will change, but at the moment I think if someone makes a special attack, it should look kind of cool visually and particles should fly around. Like I said, very early, and this is just in my imagination, but we will see how this will turn out. So anyways, I got some feedback from friends, and I think a lot of people are already happy with that kind of combat system, and I actually really think I would enjoy it, because I'm actually not a fan of micromanaging everything, so I think it can get stressful. But just looking passively might also get a bit boring, and not having the ability to interfere. So of course you interfere by choice of group. If you know, for instance, if you go to a dungeon, maybe we'll give a little flavor text and it will say there are ghosts, and then you know, okay, ghosts cannot be attacked with physical weapons, so I have to bring my mages. So this is of course one aspect how you can interfere. You can plan, and you can plan all the synergies, but aside from that it might get a bit stale. So we thought, how can we make it better? Do we want to give them maybe active abilities, maybe an item which they can use during the fight? And if you have 10 characters, this might get a bit stressful. So now I think we came up with a really cool idea and a really cool system, and actually I at least want to try it out. If it's bad, we will leave it out, but just for the future, it's not implemented yet. But the idea is if the focus bar fills and is full, then you can configure before the fight, will this attack trigger automatically? For instance, you have a guy with a shield, and if his mana bar is full, he will use his shield. Or you could say, don't use it automatically, and then the character will just blink, and the thing here will blink. And then you can wait 20 seconds, and then there might be the right time spot where you want to use this ability. And how you use it is you just left click on the character. So very easy to use. You even could play it on a tablet. We actually think about bringing this game to a tablet as well. What would be the purpose of that? For instance, if you fight an enemy and he makes an earthquake, and the earthquake does really massive damage to your whole group, maybe you want to wait with your shield until this earthquake actually happens. Or for instance, you have someone like Alra. She will have a dagger, right? And you could maybe say her special attack is she does a lot of damage to a single target, but she will also interrupt the target. If the enemy casts, for instance, a thunderstorm, and he will cast it for quite a while, okay, and then if you use your special attack before randomly, you might not interrupt it. So you, for instance, in such a fight, you would like to wait to use your special attack until the thunderstorm is actually cast. And there are really a lot of scenarios I've thought about where you really have to strategize and use your special abilities in the right order. And I think it would, at least for the boss fight, add a lot of cool flavor. So this is the vision for the updated combat now. Okay, and now I will let the combat run in a little bit. You will also see that now our range attacks are working. They didn't work before, so basically the mages were walking towards enemies and attacking them from close range. Now this actually works. And we also integrated some stats, for instance, avoidance or dodging. Now you might see sometimes there appears a little miss symbol, so this works as well. And oh, you see, there's so much. Also, the synergies are working right now, or some of the synergies, and we have a buffing system. So, for instance, if the synergies say you get 10% more health, all humans get 10% percent more health, this will actually work. And yeah, let's see how the combat turns out. You see, they don't have weapons, so but you see, range attack works. They also have a range stat. And you see the focus bar fills. Right now, the special attacks don't trigger. We don't have animations for them. They are not programmed, but this is how it actually is supposed to work. And at the moment, they also only fill when you get hit, not when you hit yourself. But that's how it would work. And yeah, you see, it all comes closer to the real deal. Also, the item system, everything is in place. Of course, these are unrealistic values, but you can also always easily tune the values, right? I mean, I think when I say easy, this needs a lot of testing, but the game mechanics, they are in place. And I actually don't know where we are. Where are we? Ah, here we are. So now let me return to the city, and now you will see something very cool, because what I currently try to do is make the story more alive, and Dominic programmed me a lot of tools how I can integrate the story into the game. For this we need triggers. And the classical trigger is you're at turn 10, and your trigger is you reach turn 10 and a dialogue plays. But we want to have it more interactive and more immersive. The next trigger which will appear is after a specific quest, and this will be our first quest when you do the first quest, and you come home and a specific character, in this case Torben, is at the base, something will happen. Okay, you see, and it actually happened. So this is the trigger I described. Now, when you're in the dialogue system, before you could do whatever you want, now you're locked in this dialogue. You cannot flee. On his way home, Ryu found this old hack. So this is just a placeholder graphic. Actually, what we want to do with that old witch basically is that she's very funny and she talks in rhymes, right? So for instance, here she says, warm inside it is today, no more cold, so good, hooray! Because you just jumped into your home base, you just walked straight in, and it's kind of hard to get out now. And what we want to do is for all our fellows and for all the guys who join your group, they should not be faceless minions, but they should all have their own personalities. So far, I think we have quite a couple of characters, and I think it worked out very well. They all have the traits. For instance, we have this one comedy character, Holdor, or then we have the brute, basically Torben. Everyone has their backgrounds, and yeah, in this scene, Noki, the switch, gets introduced. She plays an important role, not because she's that story relevant, but because she has some artifacts which are very valuable to the group. Which actually lets the group communicate over large distances, because we were struggling. How do we actually manage if different groups are on missions? How can they talk to each other? There has to be some reason for that, and yeah, so we tried to tackle this problem with our new character Noki. Yeah, let's see what happens at the end of this dialogue. Okay, you see, the dialogue is gone. Noki slipped into the house and she does not want to go. She refuses. So what happens right now is you have a new follower. Noki has joined your group. And you can see what synergies she has. She's a summoner. Actually, I would like to have her like spray toads. So she will summon frogs and toads. And that's what I would like to have for her. And she's a halfling, so she's very tiny and she should really look crazy. So I will ask our artist to paint her. And then she will also get a third synergy, so her soul color is air. So just that you know, these two values here are always static, but this one here will be randomized. This is once again, we want to have a little bit of replayability. Not everything should feel static. So the soul color will always be random if you play it new. And that you cannot look in the internet what is the perfect group, because it will change from game to game. All right. Now one thing I forgot to tell you is that the quest can now be triggered correctly, right? If I go to Town Hall, and I send my units out, Oh, this is actually a cool quest because now I can show you that. You see now the people are actually walking along the street. So the nuff mesh, which lies beyond everything, it is really hard to create. We have done it only for some parts of the map, but in this part you see it works. Looks really cool if you ask me. So they walk over the street because it is the fastest route. But we also started at least rudimentary the quest UI. I hope it will work. Yes, right here. So this is not how the quest UI will work, but this will be your quest log. There you see, for instance, we have an open quest, rescue the squad or the rescue squad. And yeah, they can always be tracked here, and does not work. Everything does not work, but you will see quests will also have a timer probably. And if I press the turn timer, this will go down. All right. Yes, I have to think if I forgot anything, but I think I talked about most of our stuff which we did last week. Maybe I want to add that we created a website, so you can see it right here, and if you want, you can sign up for the newsletter. I'm not sure if we have anyone subscribed, but would actually be cool because I think no matter what we do at the end, we want to have a community which is kind of interested in the game. So if you are interested about news like this or other news, sign up for the newsletter, subscribe to this channel. And just one more thing, I have a new cool song from our main musician, I have to say, Sara, and it is supposed to play when things get a bit more darker and sad, so characters will definitively die. Just as a spoiler, the guys you see right now, not every one of them will survive. So we need some sad music. Yeah, you can hear a little bit about the music now, and like last week I will just let the video flow for a little bit so you can listen to it, or you can go to Sara's channel. There's the video in its whole length, the music in its whole length. And yeah, with that having said, enjoy and see you next week.